A lovely good evening to all of those that are watching Times Television at this moment and all those also streaming on our social media platform, Facebook to be more precise, Times at 360 Malawi. Officially would like to welcome you to Catholic University for the 60th edition of the CUNIMA Conversation, which is titled "Is Malawi Ready for Large-Scale Mining Activities?" So a privilege to be a part of this conversation, as previously CUNIMA has held several of such type of conversations in a bid to promote Malawi as well as to bring forth ideas that can propel the growth of the country. We all do have an understanding that Malawi has witnessed significant developments in the mining sector, evidenced by the opening of a large-scale uranium mine in Karonga, which is Kayarikera Uranium, and several other mining projects that are in their final exploration phases. Such projects include Kanyika Mat Commodity, Kangankunde Hill Rare Earth, Kasia Rutile Graphite, Songwe Hill Rare Earth, and Malingunde Graphite. But these developments indicate a potential room for expansion in Malawi's economic base from just agriculture to include other sectors such as mining. Of course, I'm your host. My name is Yanko Seunda. We are quite optimistic that this conversation, among others, will scrutinize Malawi's existing legal and regulatory framework to determine whether current laws adequately support and regulate mining activities. We'll also evaluate the readiness of Malawi's workforce to support large-scale mining operations and the effectiveness of training and education programs in mining and related fields. We also plan to examine events within Malawi's mining sector and application of global strategies to combat corruption, such as the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, ITI, whilst around the same time considering potential and existing environmental damages and lessons from other jurisdictions, and thus propose best practices for sustainable mining in Malawi. At any given moment from now, we'll cross over inside straight to the moderator, who happens to be Theodore Mkali, who will spearhead this conversation. So over to you, Theodore.
Distinguished gentlemen, ladies, and all our online audience. We're thrilled to have you here today. Topic of the potential of the mineral development in view of Africa's economies. And this is quite relevant to Malawi, as Malawi takes on large-scale mining. Our goal today is to delve into a discussion and leave this place with some insight. And then I'll invite them to provide us with their interventions. That will then be followed up with a panel, with a plenary discussion, which will allow our audience, our live audience here, and those that are online to share your comments and questions. On today's panel, we have Mr. Maxwell Kazako. Mr. Maxwell Kazako is the country manager of Sovereign Services Limited. Mr. Kazako has a background in general administration, human resource management, procurement, logistics, and finance. Welcome, Mr. Kazako. We also have with us Mr. Stanley Nyama. He is the Director of Geological Survey Department, which is within the Ministry of Mining. Mr. Nyama has a background in mining engineering and electrical engineering. Welcome, Mr. Nyama. Lastly, we have Mr. Sylvester Richard Chikavuma, who is the head of Geography and Environmental Studies here at the Catholic University. He has a background in water engineering, environmental economics, geographical systems, just to mention a few. Welcome, Mr. Chikavuma. Thank you very much. We will now hear from our panelists, starting with our first speaker, Mr. Nyama. He will focus on the legal and regulatory framework in Malawi, and he will share with us some insights on the key developments that are there in Malawi's mining sector. I invite Mr. Nyama to take the podium. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our viewers all over wherever you are, and online and here as well. This is an interesting time, and I want to recognize all the protocols so that I can keep time. Today, I'll be presenting a few areas which I think it will help both of us where we here at university and also the public. So I'll try to make it a balance because I understand I'm speaking to you and also I'm speaking to the public. So you bear with me, and then you will go into plenary whereby we can talk maybe other issues in detail. So is Malawi ready for large-scale mining operations in Malawi? Let's begin by looking at the legal framework in Malawi. The legal framework in Malawi, you know that mining in Malawi is governed by the Mines and Minerals Act. Previously, we had 1981 one, and then we did review that, and we have 2023 Mines and Minerals Act. So what I'm going to do, I want you to try to put a balance. So I'll look 10 years backwards, and then I'll look 10 years to come. So when I'm looking at 10 years backwards, I will stand in 2024 and look 10 years backwards. When I'm looking at 10 years forward, I will stand in 2020 and look 10 years forward. Simply because of the Malawi Vision 2063, which the MIP1 first implementation phase started 2020 and is ending 2030. So currently it means we are standing, we have already done with 4 years, and we are remaining at least with 6 years. So that's why I want to balance up on that one. So you see that when we are looking at 10 years backwards, what has happened in the legal framework is that there have been a lot of review of legislations just to prepare the sector as well. So one of the Mines and Minerals Act was reviewed, and currently we have 2023 Mines and Minerals Act. Now in that we have established Mining and Minerals Regulatory Authority. So already just to regulate and monitor extraction of minerals, the usage of minerals, importation and exportation of those minerals in Malawi. Again, in the new Mines and Minerals Act, we have put detailed obligations towards the mining companies or implementers. That is now to make sure that Malawi is gearing towards sustainable mining development. At the same time, it is helping Malawi to develop. Key of them is we have made sure that the companies must provide details of goods and services procurement, that is, to make sure that once the mines are coming into Malawi, at least Malawians should also have businesses. So the first thing is to take businesses in Malawi, so they'll also be benefiting. The next one is on the rehabilitation and mine closure plans, to make sure that in the near future, once they have finalized extracting the minerals, they are able to rehabilitate the area or the land or the site. Mine waste management plans as well. All these have been enhanced in that Mines and Minerals Act, among other plans. Now, in the Mines and Minerals Act as well, previously we did not had issues of to do with social engagement or social corporate responsibility. It was not defined. So it was as the company wills. So in the meantime, what is happening is that the Mines and Minerals Act provide for community engagement plans. It's a requirement. So a company cannot mine without submitting that. So it gives a platform for the communities and then the company to come out at a level whereby they can also talk of issues to do with maybe conflict resolution at their level before it is taken up. So the community is able to understand. Again, we have community development agreements. Community development agreements, what does is, it is signed or it is developed between the company and the communities, and then approved by the Ministry of Mining. Now, in that, the law provides that 0.45% of the gross revenues, that's the gross, all the money that comes, the company has generated from the product sales, goes straight into the surrounding communities, what we are calling qualified communities. Now, qualified communities within 20-kilometer radius. So they'll have a board, they'll have committees, so the company will chunk the money there and they'll be determining or doing the projects as prescribed according to that agreement. So that's what we have done in the law. Again, previously, the revenues that Malawi was collecting was done by the Ministry of Mining. And then later we have transferred that to those who are better placed to collect those revenues. That is MRIA. Within 10 years backwards from today, I can also say that looking at other legislations, because mining is not a standalone, so it has some of the legislations that also guides the mines, the mining operations in Malawi. So what has happened is that we have Environment Management Act, that's recent, 2017, it was reviewed. Now, we have in that EMA, Environment Management Act, that one establishes what we call MEPA, right? So MEPA is an authority which takes care of the all environmental issues. So any large-scale mining that comes into Malawi has to be approved through that. So it has to be considered and evaluated in terms of that. And again, Taxation Act, Tax Administration Act, they will have been all reviewed recently, around 2020, now they're in operation. We have what we call National Water Resources Act. That one is very important because it established an authority for water resources. You know that in mining, once we have a large-scale mining coming in, there will be a lot of water being used. So they'll consume a lot of water, or else they'll be discharging what we call effluent, or sometimes what we waste into the water bodies. So that has to be well managed. Once whether they'll construct dams, whether they'll be reusing the waters, that is very important. So all that has been considered in the different legislations. In terms of employment, Labor Act, OSH, which is Occupational Safety and Health, they are currently being reviewed, and its policy has just been completed. Now, That is according to legislations from now to looking backwards, 10 years backwards. Now, let me begin by, or let me add in terms of availability of data, just geoscientific data. You may recall that some of you from 2014, thereabout, we did collect geoscientific data, or that was about to do with geoscientific data. We can call that aeroplane, we can call that whatever, but it was called CUNIMA. We fly the planes all over the country, and the data is available for everyone. Now, let me just explain a bit that one. The data that we collected is still in scientific form that requires interpretation. Then it followed another project which we did, what we call GEMAP, and that project we did assessment of the mineral. So it followed up with the data that we collected, and after followed up, we went into the ground and we do some assessments, and they produced verification maps, whether that of what was produced before. So this data gives a foothold to everyone who is an investor to come and use that data and then proceed from there. It requires still more kind of investigation for you to understand the deposit that you have. Now let me talk about transparency in the mining sector as well. Because why am I saying so? It's because when we are looking at the extraction of minerals, transparency is very important. We need to build integrity. Malawi is a member of EITI, Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. And Malawi, mining is one of the major reporting entity. 2022, Malawi scored high, and that means we are able to report that one, and we are good to go. In the Ministry of Mining, first come, first serve. You apply a mining license, you are the first one to be considered before the second is considered. Now, initiatives. Let me just quickly into initiatives. You know, some of you that we have done, we are establishing mining company to venture into mining as well. And also, there's a policy direction at the moment, and the companies were happy that they have accepted that all the large-scale mining, they should be able to list on Malawian Stock Exchange, so that Malawi should be able to participate in business-wise by acquiring some of the shares in that. Recently, we have also been engaging people. Some of you may know that we did the investment forum in April, and followed by in May, engagement of people living in diaspora. Those people, we want to bring money here and invest in Malawi. And we want to encourage you so that we should, once you are learning, and you should also be thinking of the of investment in Malawi. Projects, we will discuss later. We have, but at least you know that we have signed MDAs. We want to reopen Kairekera Uranium, and we have also signed an MDA already with Kanika Niobium. We have also signed an MDA with Lancaster Exploration. When you look at that, so I'm moving towards 10 years now, because when you look at that, the distribution of the large-scale mining that are upcoming, you see that north, almost center, south. So it gives Malawi a very good hope that we should be able in the next 2 to 6 years to come. So we should be able to manage that. And I can confidently say that with the review of the registration, we are good to go, and we are ready for mining investment, especially large-scale mining operations in Malawi. I think let me stop there, then we can discuss later. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Nyama. Can we have a round of applause for his... Thank you for your insightful account on the existing legal and regulatory frameworks in mining. I'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Kazako. He will speak on the readiness of Malawi's workforce for mining operations and the current state of education and training of Malawians in view of large-scale mining. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, the moderator. All protocols observed. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to agree with the director there to say Malawi as a nation, we are very ready for large-scale mining. We can confirm this based on few elements. One is the establishment of the Mining and Minerals Regulatory Authority, which is an independent body that is looking after the mining and the minerals. Secondly, it's about the issues of the review of the Minerals and Mining and Minerals Act of 2023. And also, you look at the issues of Malawi government establishing the mining lab, in Lilongwe. This is one of its kind. It has never been there before. And when you look into the issues of the mines, you would find that we also have like the signing of the MDAs that he has just highlighted to say if the Ministry of Mines and other government departments are able to develop and come up with the MDAs that can be signed, then it means it's a very big milestone in terms of Malawi in supporting the mining industry. But when we now go to the actual issues to say, is Malawi workforce ready for the large-scale mining? I would say that Malawi as a nation, we are still immature. The reason being, yes, our universities, Chancellor College, which is now University of Malawi, the MOBAS, Catholic University, you go to even MAST, they have been training a lot of geologists, metallurgists, engineers, environmental experts. But when we go back and look at the Malawi history in terms of mining, you'd find that the only large-scale miner that we had was Kairekera, which was also, which stopped operations in around 2013, 2014, and the maybe I would say experienced miners, experienced geologists, metallurgists, engineers, or environmental experts were absorbed by our colleagues, our neighboring countries, for example, Mozambique, Zambia, and the like. So for that reason, now that the current government is now focusing on 2063 vision to say, let's focus on ATM, which is agriculture, tourism, and mining. What it means is like we are now going into a situation where we are saying Malawi as a nation would want to focus into mining, but when you go back and look at the expertise, you find that most of the expertise are no longer living in Malawi, are no longer working in Malawi. So for that reason, it's like Malawi has to start all over again, developing expertise, human resource into the mining industry in order to support the large-scale mining. We are not saying we don't have the experts. We have the people, but they are very few in numbers that they cannot afford to support the current, I would say, the current technology that is being used in mining and the like. So, but holistically, we shouldn't look at Malawi as an isolated case. Because these experts that we are talking about, to say they are working in Zambia, they're working in Mozambique, Botswana, even in Australia and other countries in Europe, these are people that have been robbed from Malawi going to those countries because there was also a boom in terms of mining in those particular countries. So Malawi is not in an isolation. Now that Malawi is also having a boom period of mining, surely Malawi would also want to source other expertise from other nations, foreign nations. So we needed to look into that. In terms of training and education, I would say Malawi as a nation, we are really providing the necessary education that is required for people or for students or for Malawians to support the large-scale mining. Because we have got universities, I would say 4, MOBAS, Catholic, MUST, and the University of Malawi, who are training geologists, environmental experts, metallurgists, engineers to support this particular industry. But I would give you a very good example of Sovereign Services Limited to say Sovereign has gone in because of we know that in the near future, in the next 2-3 years to come, all being well, we may go into the actual mining after obtaining the license from Malawi government. Then surely we would need the local expertise to support these, the operations. For that reason, we have gone into an arrangement with the investors, these investors that I've just mentioned, some of them, to say we should be having internship programs with these investors to make sure that we groom the future geologists, we groom the future metallurgists, engineers, and environmental experts. So, for example, last year we have just trained around 30 plus people, interns. Those are the ones that we have, and we still have more interns at Sovereign Services. The reason being, we know that in the next 2, 3, 4 years to come, these people, when they finish their college education, they will be taken on board with Sovereign Services. So as they will be joining Sovereign, or as they will be joining other mining companies, they will not be new into the system. That's the first thing. Secondly, with the current technology that is coming into the mining industry, they will be attached, or they will already have the knowledge on how to manage these machineries. I will give you an example. Sovereign Services has just acquired a new power plant, which is one of its kind. It has never been in Malawi since, this is the first time. And the few people or the few students that are doing their internship with Sovereign Services, they are already having the hands-on experience into the use of this particular machine. Meaning to say, they stand a very big chance in the future for them to be taken back on board, to continue with the lessons or the learning process that they have already done. At the same time, we have also to understand or to differentiate between the large-scale mining and the artisan or the small-scale miners. This is, I think, the area that my director there, you have got a work to do. But in terms of the scale, large-scale mining, I would want to assure you to say Malawi as a nation, we are ready because we have put in all the necessary guidelines and tools that are supposed to be used by the large-scale miners or the future investors that are going to come into Malawi to do their mining. But the key area that we all need to look into is to have to build capacity into the human resource, so that these experts that are in Malawi now helping to establish this large-scale mining, they shouldn't stay here for the rest of the mining life. At least after some 5-10 years to come, they should be able to leave the mining operations to Malawians, so that the Malawians should run their own minerals that they have. So for now, maybe I should stop there, because now there will be a part where we're going to have some interventions and some discussions, so that maybe we can address individual questions and individual areas that you think needs to be clarified. Thank you so very much, moderator.
Thank you so much for your insights, Mr. Kazako, and in particular for also acknowledging that besides the mining workforce that exists now, we're also acknowledging the future mining workforce that exists in this room. And that provides us with a perfect segue for our next speaker, Mr. Chikavumwa, who will speak on potential and existing dangers that will arise from mining and lessons Malawians can learn from other countries, particularly on the aspect of sustainable mining. I invite you, sir.
all protocols observed. I will take you through the minerals first that we have in Malawi, because we are talking of mining, but maybe we have some other people who might not know what minerals do we have in Malawi. So firstly, we have uranium, which is mined in the northern Malawi. And the main dangers that might arise when we are mining uranium include radiation exposure. So when people are exposed to uranium, it releases some radiation, so it has some impacts on the public health of the people. And secondly, you might have issues to do with what is called acid mine drainage. So in simple terms, this is where uranium or another material releases some sulfides, and these sulfides, when they react with oxygen and water, they are going to produce some sulfuric acid. So this sulfuric acid, when it gets into water, you may have contaminated water, or you might have acid water. So this is another problem that might arise. So you see that in areas where you are having mining, you may have issues to do with water pollution. Another element or another mineral which is mined in Malawi is the coal. We have coal at Nchenga in Irumpi. We also have the same at Kaziwi-Ziwi. So what normally happens is that when you are mining coal, most of the times the danger that will come along with this could be air pollution. It's simply because coal produces dust and some ash, and this these are some of the air pollutants. You may have ozone, you may have particulate matter, 2.5, 10, based on the diameter of all these. You may have nitric oxides and what have you. So this over time, you see that you may have some respiratory problems. So this is also another problem that could arise due to mining. Another issue could be deforestation. When you want to do large-scale mining, it means you need large land, and if you have that area covered with the trees, you have to clear these trees. Of course, there's an equation. You need to use a fuzzy approach so that you identify the significance or the impacts. So you use a falsification approach, which will help you to analyze whether the impact is high, medium, or low. Another element which we have in Malawi is niobium. I think this one should be in Zimba. So another thing that could arise from this is degradation. Then we have gemstones, which most of the times is mined by artisans, as they explained. So artisans or small-scale mining, for this approach, most of the times, you see people just dig a place, they'll get what they want, and at the end of the day, they'll leave gully, and then over time we'll have soil erosion. People might lose land for agriculture and what have you. So these two might be another impact that might arise due to mining. We have gypsum, we have limestone, and all those. So we can say Malawi is rich in minerals, and then we may have different aspects related with pollution, both water, air, soil degradation, land degradation, and then displacement of people. Sometimes people have to be displaced so that you have mines in all these areas. So most of the times you see that here in Malawi, we have been doing mining for a very long period of time. But the question that we need to answer is, has this mining helped us in terms of development? We'll answer later on, but for now, let's talk about the Kaelekela that the director talked about. I'll talk before it stopped. How much was it contributing in terms of percentage to our GDP? You see that the percentage is about 1 to 3%, which is very small. And the question that we also have to pose is, how about the other plants? Let's say Njenga. Let's talk of Kaziwi-Ziwi. Let's talk of the other mining plants. How much have they been contributing to our GDP? That is a talk for another day. But then we have to understand that our friends, I'll start with Finland. In Finland, they promote the use of technology to identify and quantify the minerals that they have. So they mostly use geographical information systems, they use remote sensing to quantify. And then we'll ask the same to Malawi. How far are we in terms of using GIS and remote sensing in trying to quantify the minerals that we have? Sweden mostly utilizes and strengthens the use of environmental and social impact assessments, so that whenever the project is being done, then you see that you have analyzed all the impacts and then the mining should be sustainable. Here in Malawi, where are we in terms of using environmental and social impact assessments in checking the sustainability of our plants or our mining sector? I tried to check the internet for most Asia, which is environmental and social impact assessment reports, and then for the ones that I found, I've seen none which rejected a place to say this should not proceed. In other words, everything that is done will always proceed. So that tells you either we are doing a good job or we do a bad job. That's why we always accept everything. Then another thing that we have to consider is a human resource. In Zimbabwe, most of the times, they are trying to strengthen the capacity of the local personnel. But here in Malawi, I heard from both panelists that for us to do large-scale mining, we need some expertise from, let's say, Australia, the UK, maybe different places outside. But we should also remember that these people are business persons. So whenever they come here, they'll do their thing, they will mine, and at the end of the day, they have to benefit. There's no one who do business just for losses. So you see that this is another problem that we have as a country, whereby all the people who are doing mining, a larger part of them are people from outside the country. As such, some issues related with sustainability might not be considered. So I think that too should also be taken into consideration. Then another problem I think that we have, And this is also being experienced in Namibia, Botswana, South Africa. You see, some of these neighbors, they will have infrastructure whereby once they mine, they are going to process, they will add value to whatever they are mining, so that when they find markets, they are able to sell all these at a better price. But here in Malawi, over the past years, you see that we have only been sending raw materials, and as such, these things we get less prices, because what we do, we only have we are going to only have the raw materials and not the final product. So if we are going to be talking about large scale mining, then we have to change the mindset, whereby instead of this snail paced approach, we need to use maybe a bird's eye view approach. So when we use this approach, maybe it will help us to do the large scale mining. But at the current level where we are, I don't think we are yet ready to go into large scale mining. And in addition to this, I understand that the mining ministry and the department, they are doing all they can so that they can improve the infrastructure. I'll give an example. Currently in Lilongwe, they are constructing a state-of-art mining laboratory, which they would want to be processing, and then they would want to be sending the final product. However, we'll see that for this to work, it will need expertise, and this expertise has to come from our institutions. So for the institutions that we have in Malawi, which are of higher learning, you understand that most of these institutions, they have limited equipment, which might also be different from the equipment which is at that lab. So this will mean a person learning or trying to understand one equipment, and they go out to find another equipment, and then all of a sudden you see that because we don't have expertise to operate that, we need expatriates from outside the country, and that will be a problem on its own. So it means as a country we also have to enhance the education sector so that the universities have the required equipment, and outside we also have the infrastructure that is needed, so that at the end of the day we are able to mine sustainably. And then we also have another issue that has to do with these artisans. You see that most of the times they are the ones who are benefiting a lot at the expense of the government. So most of the times they will have markets, and once they have these markets, they will be able to easily take their gemstones or any other mineral outside the country. And because they are taking this outside the country, you see that it will not be contributing a lot to the GDP. So this on its own will also be a problem. So much as the country, much as the Department of Geology, much as the Ministry of Mining is doing all what it can so that we align with the Malawi Vision 2063, so that we try to enhance enabler number 7 that has to do with environmental sustainability. We should also remember that at the end of the day, what we have is Malawi, and then we have to try our best so that whatever we are mining, we have to mine it sustainably. Assume we have gold somewhere in Malawi, and then if we mine it, and then the rate at which we are extracting this is greater than the rate at which it is forming, then right away it means that will not be sustainable. And if it is not sustainable, that means at the end of the day, we are only going to have mining projects which will not benefit the country. So currently we have Kairekera, which is being resuscitated, and then as it is being resuscitated, then we also have to pay attention to the different environmental aspects that this project might bring. And if it brings a lot of problems, then it's better we have to channel the resources maybe to some other minerals and some other sectors so that we can have some benefits to the country. Another thing that we need to consider and that we need to understand is that in our neighboring countries, most of the times the mining sector will have benefits which will have to be extended to the communities and even to the districts or to the localities where they are. But you see here in Malawi, you may have a mining plant within a certain locality, but you see people in that area suffering from water access. It means these mining industries, they are not helping the communities, and it will also mean some other sectors will suffer at the expense of this industry. So, as the director stated, I think it is good that we have to enhance this understanding that the CSR should always be promoted. So, reaching that far, I would conclude to say, much as the country is trying all its best to enhance the mining industry, we are yet to get there to start large-scale mining. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have heard so much from our panelists. And for those that may just be joining us, I'll just pick out on a few points that were mentioned. We started off this discussion by asking the question of whether Malawi is ready for large-scale mining activities. And so far, we've heard of the existing legal framework that is there, which is the Mines and Minerals Act, which was also recently amended this year, yes, and its interesting features that are in there. We've heard about the existing mining workforce in Malawi. We've also heard about the existing minerals that are in Malawi and the problems that attract mining operations, such as respiratory problems associated to human life and that of deforestation when we consider the environment. We have also heard interesting bits about synergies between the large-scale mining sector and ASM, and we have also touched bits on EAIs. So now let's move on to the more interactive session where we'll take on questions from our audience within the room and our audience online. So can we start off with 4 questions from the audience? Can I have a mic circulated? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is John Kariwamba. I have 2 questions. The first question is actually based on the legal framework. The preparedness of Malawi as a country in terms of our laws. Is Malawi prepared to actually exacerbate the mining industry vis-a-vis the existing laws? I will take you to Section 13, subsection D of the Constitution of the Republic of Malawi, 1994, which actually refers to that the country, Malawi, has to make sure that the people of Malawi are enjoying a clean environment, which is a principle of national policy. So the same is actually benchmarked in the Environmental Management Act, Section 4, whereby it is now a right to a clean environment. But at the same time, it is not existent in the Constitution as a right. It is existent only as a principle of national policy. and then trickling down to other jurisdictions, the common law jurisdictions, and as well as the Roman Dutch law. You see that the very same right to clean environment is enshrined in the Constitution as a right. What's in Malawi is existing as a principle of national policy. So how can you advance litigation when we actually claim that Malawi is ready legislatively, and yet the very same is not even existent in the Constitution? And then the other issue worth considering is the issue of locus standi. When we talk of locus standi, is the sufficient interest to commence litigation. So the very same aspect of locus standi is actually being challenged, whereby you cannot easily commence litigation, whereby you don't have sufficient interest in a matter of the involvement and any other ancillary matters. So how can you actually push an agenda to check the government administratively and as well as on civil aspect, whereby you are lacking that interest, and as an individual, you cannot commence litigation? In mind, have the issue of Njuli case, whereby the Greenwicks could not advance a case just because they lacked that's this locus standi, and the adverse effects of the involvement are actually encompassing. The last question is going to my classmate, Mr. Sylvester Chikavumba, my secondary school classmate. So you have addressed quite well the concept of sustainable development, which is found first and foremost from the Stockholm Declaration 1972, the Rio Declaration, and as well as it is even benchmarked in the Laudato Si, mi signori. Yeah. So when sustainable development is defined as meeting the needs of the without producing a valid bond. So that, so much so that as long when it has been closed and the company has not rehabilitated the area, then the government will use that bond, which is settling. So that we do know that mining, yes, we are always at par with the environment. It's a question of now going back to sustainability development. Because when we are talking development or only environment or sustainable development, converting mineral to use for even for future generation, now and future generation. Now, if you didn't give me time, so
Just 1 minute. Thank you.
yeah, but cut it short. If you go to Mines and Minerals Act, you see everything has been highlighted. Regulations, very detailed, so that we should be able to follow that. And then there are consequences and there are fines and all that. So litigation, yes, can be taken based on those.
It can possibly be taken on by Mr. Kazako. The question was, how are the laws protecting artisans? Any practical experience there?
I want to highlight some few areas to say, as Mr. Nyama has already said, you know, the legal framework of Malawi has taken into consideration all areas that they know gonna be affected in whenever we are doing mining. So much as we are talking of the large scale mining, but we should also have it at the back of our minds to say we have got our brothers and sisters who are artisan or small scale miners. And for these particular scale, small scale miners, you may find that their legal requirement for them to find themselves operating are very basic. I'll take you back to say for a large scale miner to start operation, most of them may require a minimum of 10 years from the exploration stage to the actual operation. Minimum, large scale miner, 10 years. But for these artisan, you may find that immediately they get their license, you know, in the next maybe 1 year or within a month, some few months, they find themselves starting mining. As my brother here had already alluded to say these are the people sometimes who do their mining and leave the garages around, and you know, so these are some of the things that you would see that the law gives them a lot of leeway. While these large scale miners, you may find that apart from the laws of Malawi that they are supposed to abide by, they also have international standards that they're supposed to follow before they do the actual mining. For argument's sake, you may find that maybe Malawi as a nation has been talking about the Cassia Ruta and graphite deposits maybe for the past 3-4 years. But if you ask us, we're going to tell you to say we have got another 2-3 years before we could start even the actual construction of the mine itself. Why? Because there are laws, there are international standards that we are supposed to follow. But if we were just an artisan, then surely it could have been yesterday. You could have heard that we have already started operating. So the laws of Malawi, yes, they are there to protect. They are there and they are able to protect these artisans. And if you don't mind, I would also want to take the other question about the plans for the mines. You know, my brother, I would give you a practical example of the Cassia Ruta project. Our vision is, it's about the mining model that you're going to have. To say, like in our case, we have got an area where we know that we're going to do the mining, like more or less like 29 kilometers in terms of the length and 10 kilometers in terms of the width. But in terms of the project implementation, for argument's sake, maybe we may say, okay, fine, we're going to do like 100 hectares and stay there for 3 to 5 years, working on the 100 hectares. On the understanding to say, once we are done with that particular 100 hectares, we have to rehabilitate it back to the original state at which we found it, you know. So these are the issues that were being highlighted by my brother Nyama to say the current Minerals and Mines and Minerals Act is providing for these issues to say you have to rehabilitate the area as it was. So regardless of extracting the minerals that you are looking forward to, but you have also to rehabilitate the area to make sure that it's at its original state. In our case, we are in Kasia, where people depends on farming, meaning to say if we can spoil the 29-kilometer length or distance without rehabilitating that particular land, where will the people or the future generation going to do their farming? So we have to put the land back to its original use, even much better as it was before. So currently, we have got a project which we are saying the Kasia rehabilitation site. We have got like 10 hectares, which we have got a 10-hectare land, which we have just dug like 100 meters in terms of length and width. It's like a square meter of 100, you know, where we have put in a big hole of 20 meters deep, and would want to rehabilitate that particular land or particular area back to its original use in the next like 2-3 years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input, Mr. Kazako. We had a specific question directed to Mr. Kavumwa, basically covering the aspects of sustainable mining and sustainable development. What are your comments there?
All right. To give a definition of sustainable mining, I would put it in these simple terms that sustainable mining is a type of mining whereby whenever you have mined, then the negative impacts are reduced and the benefits are enhanced whilst conserving the environment. So, as my brother here has stated, assume you have, I'll give in simple terms, let's say you have 50 kgs of gold. You mine the whole 50 kgs and then you are done. There's no sustainability there. But sustainable mining is the one whereby whenever you are mining, you ensure that the land which might have been destroyed in the process has been taken to its original state so that you can have other benefits after that, so that people in future can also benefit. So when you are taking that approach, it means even though you are having some problems to the environment, you do still have to recover so that future generations can also benefit from that land. So as we are doing the mining, we have to ensure that environmental sustainability is there so that at local aspect, you can have some benefits, and at large scale, looking at, let's say, the country at large, then it is also going to benefit. So to the communities, you'll be talking of environmental sustainability, and to the nation at large, that would entail sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're also receiving some comments and questions from our online audience. The first one being, given numerous reports of artisanal gold mining and discoveries of gold fragments across Malawi, why has there been no formal geological approval of large-scale confirmation that gold deposits exist in commercially viable quantities? A question from Mr. Nyama? Yes, please.
Thank you very much for that question. That one, approval comes because someone has applied. You don't approve when someone has not applied. You can't apply if you have not found the deposit. What it means is, if there is no large scale operator who has applied, it means simply they haven't discovered it yet. We are still doing exploration to find the main source of the alluvial gold, which is all over the country, has not been found. So that's our work at the moment, and we are very keen to find that maybe if we would be lucky to find that deposit, as simple as it is. So at the moment, it's only commercially viable through artisanal small-scale mining, but not investment for large-scale mining. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a specific question, well, it was kind of directed as a comment, that Mr. Chikabumwa stated that the documents of ESIAs he searched are showing that every ESIA was approved, yet there are a lot of problems. So what is the way forward to reduce these problems?
So, in order to reduce these problems, we have to be transparent, and the people who are conducting these ASIA, they also have to be accountable, because most of the times we have issues to do with corruption, whereby people might already have answers to a specific problem that they know. So a good example could be, we want to do mining somewhere, and then maybe it's out of politics, they want to do mining somewhere else, and then they would find consultants, so that whenever they do this report, it should align to what they want. So it means issues of transparency, issues of accountability are not there. So if people who are doing these ASIA reports and consultants are held accountable, and then they are transparent enough, and they have this passion for the country, then it means they would do reports which are genuine in nature. So I think that's how I would address that question.
I'll allow the other panelists to share their views, if there are any.
All right, no, thank you so very much. I wanted just to come in and say, we maybe when tackling these questions, we have to separate them between large-scale mining and small-scale miners, because when it comes to large-scale miners, mining, there are a lot of regulations that or standards that you are supposed to follow, both local standards and international standards, where there are no shortcuts at all, because at the end of the day, issues of mining should be attached to issues of financing. You know, this is the reason why I had mentioned to say, for a large-scale miner, it takes a minimum of 10 years, you know, without making or generating any revenue. You just keep on investing. So you really need to find a real investor who is willing to take that long to be pumping in money for you. At the end of the day, maybe after some 10, 15 years, you start generating money. So issues of shortcuts, issues of the corruptions that might be mentioned. Yes, maybe they can be locally, you can do that and get the necessary approvals. But now when it comes to source of funding, you now want to get funding. Surely you want to get funding, because in one or the other, the shortcuts that you have done might not pass the international standards that are there. So we have to agree to say maybe some of the worries that we have can only apply to the small scale miners who are the artisans, because the way the law protects them, they don't have the international standards that they're supposed to follow. But for large scale miners, there is no way you can dare to start doing any shortcut, because at the end of the day, you may find that the work that you have done for the past 10 years, then will yield nothing, because you are not going to find any institution or any individual to fund your future project. Thank you.
Perhaps you can just clarify for us the distinction between large-scale miners and ASM, so that we should just categorize them. Who exists in the large-scale mining sector and who exists in ASM?
So let me push this to the regulator, who is the director.
Kodi, let me ask. I think we have been speaking English online for the sake of the public. Can we? I'm not so sure. I'm starting to be guided. Should we continue with English? Especially for this artisanal small-scale mining. Yeah, because I mean, I would only have online, and I also do my small-scale miners. There are many who are going to swim from mbali. So, zimela kunena hapa ndizonena kuti tikapita ku large scale mining. we have categories kapena kuti ndondomeko yoti uyu ndi mwa large scale, uyu ndi wa small scale. Okay, so small scale kunoko kwathu kuno ku Malawi ndekuti license imambira ka 2 hectares license. Komanso amagulisa zida zokumbira ngati makasu kapena ma shovel mapiki. Ndekuti apita musinje kapena pantunda azikumba amene ali ngati small scale miner. So tikapita ku large ndekuti amenewo ndi amene akukumbano kapena ali milingo ikulu mataneji ambirimbiri. Komanso amakhala kuti mangana threshold kapena kuti mulingo opangira investment about $250 million kumapita uko. That's a lot of money. So timakhala kuti apanga already 40 zimene nawo zimakhala kuti weko kamabwera pa business paja chimene ukufuna chimanena ndalama zimene utalowetse automatically imasefa yoka monga amene ukufunira. So image makhala kuti mene mabwesera business case yanu ndekuti maona kuti iyi already mukapangika ABCD ndekuti mukupanga qualify. Ndekuti ndimene zimaendera. I hope ndapangako clarify pamenepo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyama. We have one more comment and question from our online audience. The comment basically talks on the aspect of energy power and the concerns that are there. We always have problems with power. But the question is asking, what energy source is the large-scale mining sector using in Malawi?
It depends with the volume of your maybe machinery that you can use. But I would give a very practical example of sovereign services, where we have got the electricity along the Kasia Road, even at Kanengo. But in our case, because of the amount of electricity that we would want to have, we are supposed to get our power, the 132 kV power, from the Nkoma plant, So we have to get electricity from Nkoma all the way to Malingunde up to Kasia, And you can imagine how much or the amount of money that is supposed to be invested only on the electricity part to get those 132 kV. And apart from that, you may also need to have your own backup of electricity. So it means you need to have your own generators. And these are not just the generators that we all know, but we are talking of generators of its own kind, in order to support the actual operations of the plant. So in terms of electricity requirements, it varies. You might find that some mining companies or mining operations may require something slightly lower, and even the levels that we are talking about, they may vary. Maybe for the first 5 years you may say, okay, we may require this amount of power to be used. Then after maybe another 5 years we may want to add some more kV on that. So basically that's how it works. So it varies depending on the type of operation or the size of the operation that you have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kazako. We will take another round of questions from our audience in the room, starting from here. Can we have a mic?
Okay. My name is Luis Gawanika, political science student. Yeah, first of all, I would like to appreciate for this interactive kind of conversation. It's just so nice. Coming to the issue of the reality, now let's face the reality. Here in Malawi, we have got lots of graduates in agriculture, but agriculture itself is not improving. So you have addressed the issue of having few people in this industry of mining. I think that's the least of the problems we have, to be honest. One of the greatest problems we are having here in Malawi is the issue of lack of leadership. And this has been seen because all the three actors in governance, we talk of our private sector, public, and even civil societies, are in bed and they're even dining together. There's no issue of accountability and even transparency, or the issue of holding each other accountable. So I think that this case of mining for now, it has to be closed until we fix the issue of leadership here in Malawi. This is because as citizens, we are tired of enriching the minority at the expense of resources which were meant for the betterment of the common good. We have the issue of money sent to the butcher, money sent for farmers, and even just a recent case of, it was written in news that laws are now for sale. It means that our parliamentarians will just make sure to pass the bills which they will reach the minority. Thank you.
My name is Deus Vulumende Jr. My question is mostly focusing on the president and also the honorable parliamentarian, that is Honorable Wiran Chilenga. She made a comment in the House that was in 2023. She said that in Malawi we are losing a lot of millions. We are losing a lot of millions through the illegal mining that is happening in actual areas that is mining and also in. But then in this president said in his zone in 2023, he said that they are trying to express the power of going with mining. But I don't think that can work, considering that even the tobacco are failing. So how are we going to manage in mining once they're failing tobacco? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Vanessa Malora. In as much as everything has been said, I just seek clearance on our second speaker mentioned something about our expertise leaving the country to go venture out in different countries. So that could simply mean that the demand for them in this country is very low. So in my sense, I'm asking that what incentive is Malawi or are you planning to put in to raise this demand for our expertise to work here? Because in as much as that there might be many factors contributing in this people leaving. It could be tax resumes, it could be high opportunity cost, high operating cost, etc., etc. So what incentive are we planning to put to actually source out and venture for this expertise to come here and work in their homeland? Thank you.
My question goes to Dr. Chikavumba. So he mentioned something about gas emissions, right? So, as a country, how are we planning on dealing with those kind of emissions, since it's affecting a lot of people, like it brings out health problems and stuff? So, in cases of large-scale mining, so my question goes to how are we planning on dealing with those gas emissions? Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have close to 4 questions there. Well, the other one seemed to be a comment. Yes. So let's direct it back to our panelists. The question on lack of leadership and a comment on leadership. Mr. Nyama.
Thank you. I think that one, let me address it by saying that there's a lot of perception in this country, and we admit that we have a lot of work to do. Because if you find a problem in one sector, and then you quick to say let's close it, we end up closing everything in this country. That's the fact of the matter. But the issue should be, how do we address those? So, In his question, you may understand, according to the presentation, how the government has put a strategy to ensure that Malawians do benefit from the mining. So, all those strategies are aiming, addressing those issues. The second one, the country is also relying, that's why we are here, is also relying on the graduates, whenever they go there, to pull their mind resource and put in there and provide solutions. I was chatting with someone, and that person said, investment in Malawi or businesses in Malawi is not a problem. People are lacking job. That is not a problem. The problem is trustworthy people. You create something, they swindle it. And then later on, they come back and complain and they point a finger at you. That's a problem. The problem is not the capital. The second one, as I presented there, I said that we have to make sure that we are thinking towards investment into mining. Okay? Like buying shares. Malawi Stock Exchange. If we put mining companies on Malawi Stock Exchange, as the policy has been directed to do so, that means it will directly benefit Malawians, not only those coming to invest in Malawi. So in that case, we'll develop ourselves. But if we still live in the hands of foreigners, then for sure we can cry for good. But for us, we have to start little by little. The Malawians must invest. We have wooed even diaspora, people in diaspora, that they should come and even take those monies. We were educating them that there's potential in Malawi. So in that case, it's just about maybe how people perceive the mining sector. Can I proceed and give one pertinent example? But that should not open a discussion again. All right? Bauxite in Mulanje. You have heard the stories all around. Okay? Yes. But I want to explain as this. People think that when we say we mine bauxite in Mulanje Mountain, we bring down the whole mountain. Which is not the case. Mulanje Mountain is 22 kilometers, and the other side is almost 26 kilometers. The area which and it is almost 2,000 to 3,000 meters. Now, the area which we want to mine, or where we are studying, the mining area, is the radius of 2 kilometers. So, the depth of that bauxite is 4 to 5 meters only, because it's a weathered material. It's just on top. So what it means, the miner will go on top and scrape off not more than 10 meters versus 3,000 meters. And look what the distance is, the length, 22 kilometers. The miner is taking 4 kilometers, leaving 18 kilometers. The other side, leaving 22 kilometers. But people think that, oh, the Mulanje Mountain is what? Is going. Secondly, the same place, you find that 1958, it was discovered. And the British company wanted to mine it. But the problem was transportation, to go up 3,000 meters and bring down the material. Now, this time around, we have what we call aerial trammers. So it means we use trammers to go up there, even to mine and to remove the material and bring it down. You can't climb as you hikings do. Never, it can't happen. That means it is well correlating with the tourism. How many wants to go to Mulanje Mountain but they can't climb? So if the mine is there, it means you can use the same lifts to go up there. And the area versus the Mulanje Mountain area, which people are complaining about, is very small. You can see those are just perception, but people don't want to come and ask, what are you talking about? They just talk the way they are thinking, because they've seen another mine there, and in that mine, there's a pit, and say, oh, Mulanje Mountain is gone. Oh, not necessarily. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mama.
Before I could tackle issue of expertise, I just wanted to highlight some few other areas that maybe I thought we should all understand, including our viewers online. As I had already said during my presentation, to say the current administration have done a lot of things. One, they have established the Mining and Minerals Regulatory Authority, you know, and they have reviewed the Mining and Minerals Act 2023, you know, issues of the establishment of the Minerals Lab, you know, and even the practical example of the current MDAs that were signed maybe like 2 months ago. This should give you an insight of how things are, because the fact that they were reviewing the act, what it means is like there were gaps that were noted. You know, the fact that they had to establish a regulatory authority, it means they have noted that much as we had Ministry of Mines working on this, but we need to have a regulator to be managing these things. So I believe whatever has been done for the past 1 year or two has addressed maybe 90 or 99% of the issues that Malawians have been worried of. So let's give it a chance to say whatever has been done, let's see how best these things can be implemented. For us who are in the industry, we know how hard things are nowadays when you want to do something, because there are procedures that you have to follow, there are standards that you have to meet before you could get the approvals or the requests that you would want to get. So we should have that at the back of our minds. At the same time, the same thing to say, the fact that maybe Malawi is struggling in agriculture through tobacco, you know, one of the issues that tobacco growing hasn't been promoted is because of the international standards that are there in terms of the growth, the growing of tobacco and the like. So failure to manage agriculture does not mean that it will be the same with the mining. No. There are lessons that people learned from the agriculture side, and they'll be used on the other end to make sure that they do right things. So as evidenced by the changes that has taken place recently. And lastly, issues of expertise. Let's agree to say issues of large-scale mining are just coming in to Malawi. Previously, yes, we had mines, but they were all small-scale miners, you know. One. Two, as I had already said, to say, yes, we had the Kairekera, but it was closed in 2013, 2014. So you'd find that those experts or the experienced Malawians who were there, surely they couldn't have worked anywhere apart from looking for greener pastures. And we have to agree also to say, wherever there is a boom in terms of mining, that's where people are going to go. The same applies to Malawi. The fact that the government is saying 2063 is a period of ATM. What it means is like a lot of expatriates wherever they are, a lot of Malawians wherever they are, they're going to come to Malawi because they know that Malawi now has the potential in mining. So one, issues of demand and supply, issues of PECs, they goes with demand and supply, you know. So let's assume you want a very well qualified geologist or an environmental expert. Surely you have to be ready to pay for that particular person, because if that particular person is getting $5,000 in Botswana for argument's sake and wants to come back to Malawi, much as he is a Malawian or she is a Malawian, don't expect to pay him $1,000 and he's going to accept that. No, he has to get the real value of his or her education, so and experience. So basically that's how things works. So you may find that the coming in of large scale mining will completely change the economy of Malawi, and we should agree to say the large scale mining is a game changer of the Malawi economy going forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kazako. We'll move on to the last question that was directed to Mr. Chikavuma, and it's specifically on the issue of gas emissions. How are we dealing with that? Or how is the large-scale mining sector dealing with gas emissions?
All right. First thing, I should state that there are two types of emissions. You may have indoor or outdoor. So in this case, one problem that we have in Malawi is that we do not monitor emissions. So when you check literature, I think when you study the internet, you find less than 10 papers that talk about air quality monitoring in Malawi. So this tells us that we are doing less in terms of monitoring the air pollutants that are normally produced in different systems. So in order to ensure or in order to improve this, it means we need to invest, we need to have equipment that can easily monitor, measure, and then disseminate these air pollutants, which in turn will be emissions. So currently we are blessed because we have satellites. So we can use the satellites to detect the different emissions so that we monitor how the pollutants are changing over time. But in these plants where we are mining, we can also integrate with the in situ monitoring equipment so that we can have better results. So that is one thing that we need to understand. And the second thing is that even as people, we have to be aware on the type of pollutants that are normally produced. So we need to take our own initiatives so that we can know the type of air that we breathe. You see that each district, people don't know the type of air that they are breathing. Or maybe even here where we are, maybe if I ask people, what do you think would be the air quality here? We might not know. So it simply means we don't have the monitoring systems. So we have to enhance having equipment so that we can monitor this in addition to the satellites that we have, which will normally collect some of these data sets. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just perhaps a follow-up question, one question that's coming from our online audience. Say, for instance, we venture on mining coal in Malawi. Currently, the world is battling climate change. And because of this, we have agreements like the Paris Agreement, though the Conference of Parties, COP. We're trying to phase down fossil fuels globally. So does that mean that we'll end up losing? Or what exactly are the minerals we as a country want to mine and export to the international markets? It looked like an environmental question, but perhaps?
I think that one is environmental, but it goes to policy issues.
Okay.
On that one. Ngani menei yavuta kwambiri mpaka nakufika kuna kuti mwina zitadi kumaona yanga kuti mwina maiko amene akugwisa ntchito ko na amene akupangano kuti environmentally kusakhale zinthu zabwino. Komano chindunji chake ndi ichichi. Ena alikaini ma solution, maiko ena alibe ma solution. So simungasiye mulibe solution ndikuti simupita isogolo. Ndipo kapoka maiko enawo amene akugwisa ntchito ko atapeza kaye njira zogwisa ntchito ko. Ngatiso kumalawi kuno ko wambiri amagwisa ntchito kumalawi momuno. Tini ma industries kukanengo kuja amagwisa ntchito ko. Pamene ndikuti energy sector yathu tikaipanga boost tikaikweza ndikuti titha kusiya pang'ono koma sitingasiye pompo. Ngani mene iso inachitika ku South Africa, ndipo South Africa think inakana kuti yayi tadikira nikaye ena anu munatukuka kale ndio muruzo efetisiye munatukukira zomwezi. So it's an equation of balance. Command issue is in discussion pakali pano sitingane titha kuluza chifukwa chona kuti yes kukubwera timati green energy. So Maria Ethameta apa tamba kupanga discover wawa atithandizira kusogoloku kuna kuti mwina energy jekalebo komanso yogwisa ntchito within the countries, and also hydro power tikaipanga boost molingana ndi mea fotokozera mja komanso Malawi kupanga za interconnector I think project in Mozambique kuti kuze energy yatu, so imene kuti is sustainable, then we can live out possibly slowly zinazi kuma for now may not. Komanso Malawi kulimbikitsa panopa ma solar farms kuti people can invest even in Malawians and all that. So these areas zikakauti zakazikika, then slowly we can start moving towards green energy solutions. Thank you.
Thank you for your input, Mr. Nyama. There's actually a follow-up question for you that's also coming from the audience. It's coming from Victoria Dambo. She asks, how much percentage does the mining industry in Malawi produce to our GDP?
Currently, we are producing almost 1% GDP. Now, chifukwa chake ndi yani? Anthu ambiri tikamakamba za mining ku Malawi kunoko, we are still young. If you talk of Zambia, South Africa, Australia, they are more than 100 years in mining. And when we talk of mining, we are talking of large mining, not only small mining. So these small mines, ngati makwale awawa panya miala, then you are now building a house. It's a mine. When you take that and go to Ghana, what we call medium scale here, when you go to Ghana, it's called small scale. When you talk small scale in Malawi and go to Ghana, it's called artisanal. You understand? When you take even small scale and go nearby Zambia, it's artisanal. Simply because here, we are trying to conserve the environment and at the same time bringing up the people so that they can understand what is mining. Okay? So those monies, they may look much, but they're not much. So when Kaikea is in operation, then that's when we were hitting, I think the record shows about 9%, somewhere there, to 10%. So that's why we are hoping that once Kaikea opens, Kanyika opens, Sovereign Metals opens, Kangankunde Rare Earth opens. Kangankunde is starting building the plant this year in October. A plant which will start, they will start mining 40 years, and that mine can go over 100 years. Then Palombe Rare Earth, if we start those ones, then we should be talking about anything else, 20 to 30 contribute to GDP, because they are large scale miners, not artisanal small scale miners. It's just a brain teaser anyway, but it's correct like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyama. We have a question from Veronica Dambo again, but this one is directed to Mr. Kazako. She writes, Mr. Kazako, when discovering precious minerals in the land, how many tons of these minerals are to be taken as samples for verification? A case of Kayakera, whereby many tons of the minerals were taken abroad and no any feedback from there.
I would say that it's the same issue of perception as my brother here had said, because we really need to understand the process when it comes to establishment of a mine. I'll give an example of Sovereign Services. We started exploration in 2012, and to date it's like 12 years has elapsed. But we don't even have the license to do the mining. We still have exploration licenses, but this is 12 years. It's not just a matter of saying we have got minerals, but these should be minerals that should be discovered to a point where an investor can say, yes, I can come and put in my money into this and at least make a profit out of it. You know, so people should understand to say there is a process of exploration where people get tons and tons of these minerals. For example, rutile. Rutile is found in the clay that is on top of the soil. The same soil that you see when you go to the Airwing side up to Kasia. the whole soil that you see, it has got a 1% component of rutile, you know. So people should understand to say, because we don't have the laboratories, what it means is like if I take 30 tons of clay into the whatever trucks, take them to South Africa, what it means is like out of that 30 ton, only 1% is what is I mean, that's the composition of rutile, you know, and graphite is around 1.4%. Okay, so it's different from the way maybe gold is, where people get gold and they export it, and at least maybe the amount of gold that you have taken when you export it for testing and the like is the same. But people should also understand to say the samples that are being taken out are of no economic value. They are only taken for testing, you know. So the fact that this person is just investing into this without generating any revenue out of it, what normally is supposed to be done is, once the tests have been done and the results have been shared and they have been confirmed, those samples are supposed to come back, you know. But when you look at the cost that is attached to send the samples and bring them back, because what is supposed to be brought back is the whole 30 tons of sand or of clay plus the 1% of rutile that you have found, you know. So for that reason, most investors would prefer that the laboratories that normally manages those should dispose of according to the international standards that are there. Otherwise, what it means is like it's a process that's gonna just go round and round, keeping investing on the clay, that when you bring it here, MEPA will tell you, MEPA and other many authorities will tell you to say, for you to dispose of the 30 tons of clay that you have brought in back from South Africa, these are the standards that you have to follow, and you find that the cost that can also be attached to that is huge. As the result, people would prefer to say the laboratories there should dispose of those samples. Otherwise, you can't bring them back barely because of the cost attached.
Thank you so much for your input. Perhaps you may have some comment on the same?
Mine was on the climate change issue. I think one thing that we need to understand is that Malawi mostly uses the renewable energies, but it is also possible that we can use non-renewable resources but sustainably. So this is a new concept which is there, and it's applied in the different countries. They talk of the use of non-renewable resources sustainably. So maybe as a country we can also explore that approach, so that we can also have issues to do with environmental sustainability and the use of non-renewable resources, but in a sustainable manner. But at the end of the day, we still have these issues of climate change and what have you. But as a country to develop, then we also have to do a trade-off between these two. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contributions. That now marks the end of our plenary discussion. So I'll start off by saying thank you all to those that have been participating online and within this space. We've covered some important ground in answering the question, is Malawi ready for large-scale mining activities? From the insights shared, it seems to be a working conversation. And it is clear that ready or not, we have to start making decisions. We have to start taking actions, because all of this impacts us today and into the future. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to our panelists for sharing their knowledge and insights on the large-scale mining activities that are happening in Malawi. To our audience, thank you for your thoughtful participation. We hope tonight's discussion has ignited some new perspectives on the issue of large-scale mining activities in Malawi and sparked up ideas and further thought and action for ourselves. Finally, I'd like to thank our hosts, CUNIMA, and the Center of Research and Publications, and all involved in making this event what it has turned out to be. It has also been an honor to moderate such a thoughtful discussion. I want to thank everyone once again for taking part in this discussion, and we hope to see you in our future events. Have a lovely evening. Thank you. To wrap up our discussion, I will call upon the university chaplain to close with a prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Almighty and ever-living God, we thank you for this beautiful evening. We thank you for the insights that we have gotten throughout our conversation. We thank you for blessing us with the mineral resources that we have in this world, and most especially in our country, Malawi. And we thank you again for the many opportunities that we have as a nation. We ask you to give us wisdom and courage to manage well the resources that we have for the betterment of our nation, but also for the betterment of the future generation. Help us that whoever is implementing the policies guiding our mining sector should do it for the betterment of mostly the marginalized. As we'll be moving to our respective places, we ask you to send us your Holy Spirit to guide us and protect us. Help us to arrive safely in our respective homes and continue reflecting upon the use of the resources that we have. Be with us as we retire and help us to work with new strength to continue serving you. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you all, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Good.
kupemphera umene wachokera kwa Father Mwenegamba kukwangula zokambirana zimene zidalipo kuno ku Catholic University ku lecture theatre pamene amakambirana nkhani zogwirizana ndi ntchito za migodi mdziko muno kuti ngati ife Amalawi ndife okonzeka kupititsa ntchito zimenezi patsogolo kutengapo ndithu gawo pofuna kuonetsa kuti ntchito zimenezi zikuyenda ndithu mdziko muno. Ndizokambirana zosiyanasiyana zimene zachitika ndithu pamudzi pano zimene amatsogolera ndi Dr. Theodora Nkale, ndipo mwaena amene adayankhulapo tsiku la lero ndi Stanley Nyama amene amagwira ntchito ku Geological Survey Department, komanso tidali ndi Maxwell Kazako aku Sovereign Services Limited, tidali ndi Mr. Sylvester Chikabumba kuchokeranso kuno Catholic University. Ndipo zokambiranazi zinatsegulanso ndithu mafunso ndi ndemanga kuchokera kwa ena amene amagwira ntchito komanso kuphunzira pompano pa Catholic University, kuphatikizanso ena amene adachokera ndithu kunja. Mkumano onso udapereka danga kwa iwo amene amationera pa utatavu wa mchezo times 360 Malawi kuti apereke ndemanga zawo komanso kufunsa mafunso osiyanasiyana. Nkumafotokoza kuti zokambirana zokotere nzofunikira kwambiri pofuna kubweretsa pamodzi mfundo zofuna kutukula dziko lino, makamaka tikamayang'anira nkhani zogwirizana ndi migodi. Tithokoze kuti inu munali pamenepo kutenga nawo ndithu gawo pa zokambirana zimenezi. Tili ndi chiyembekezo kuti tsiku linanso kuchitika zotere tidzapezekanso ndithu limodzi kuti tikambirane tonse ngati Malawi ndi cholinga chofuna kufikira masomphenya athu mchaka cha 2063. Ndithokoze onse amene adali pamakina amene timagwira nawo kuno ntchito Catholic University. Sitingathe kutchula mmodzi fa ndochuluka zedi. Enanso timagwira nawo ntchito ku head office yathu ku Blantyre kuti muthe kutimva komanso kuonera bwinobwino ndithu chithunzi. Pamene tikuangula chotere tikhale tikuperekerani ku Blantyre kuti tipitirize ndi maprogramu amene takukonzerani usiku wa lero. Ine dzina langa ndi Yankho Seunda, Yehova akudaliseni. Teteni tipitirizebe ndithu kuchilimika pofuna kukambirana mfundo zikuluzikulu zofuna kupititsa dziko lino patsogolo, makamaka tikamayang'anira ntchito zosiyanasiyana zimene zingathe kutithandizira kumbali yokuza chuma cha dziko lino. Mulungu akudaliseni, mukhale ndi usiku wopambana. Mwakoma nonse.